Welcome to the MLG Spring Championship Kespa Starcraft2 qualifiers. This is Group C and we'll be moving into the finals. Spawning in the bottom right-hand position as the blue Protoss, playing for STX Seoul. His name is Deer. We've been following him through the bracket, but can he defeat Jangbi, one of the ace players from Samsung Con?
His opponent is Jangbi from Samsung Con, spawning as orange Protoss on the left top position of the map.
I was going to say something, but then I forgot. It happens. Brain fart.
It happens.
Yeah. Yeah, well, regardless, the winner of this series here, the best of three, best of three, will get an all expenses paid trip to MLG Anaheim, which will be taking place June 28th through the 30th. And I think that one of these Kespa players that qualifies is going to have a really good shot at winning it all.
Oh yeah, definitely, but they also have to get used to the atmosphere over at MLG because it's going to be their first time, whoever the player is going to be. Deer and Jangbi, they never, well, was it Jangbi who got sent to MLG when they did the Pro League partnership, or was it Stork? I don't remember which player it was from Samsung Con.
Sorry, I can't remember.
You know, one of those two players went, and I'm pretty sure some Samsung Com players know how it feels to be there at MLG, but they have to experience it themselves instead of just listening to their teammates on how it feels like to stand on a different stage other than Pro League, GSL, or OSL.
Yeah. Foreign stage is definitely a new concept for a lot of the Kespa players because back in Brood War, you know, the scene was so heavily concentrated in Korea. World Cyber Games is the only time that the players may actually, you know, travel outside of Korea for the finals. So, very, very few Kespa Korean players until StarCraft2 came out, and even until recently, have gotten a chance to travel abroad to participate in overseas tournaments.
So this is set number 1 between the two players, and I expect a long macro game between the two players, given the fact that this is, you know, this is the first set. It's a best of 3 series, and all they're trying to do in the first set between the two players is trying to see how their opponent plays for today. So I like this play from Deer. He's trying to play as safe as possible. In fact, the safest opening that you could do in PvP these days.
Yeah, that's really been reflected in his style as well. He will go for a safe opening against pretty much any race and just kind of play reactively from there and try to, you know, dissect his opponent, realize where the weaknesses are, and take advantage of those. He's pretty good at very specific timings as well. You know, going for instance, when he was playing against Hiva in the semifinals, as soon as he got that +3 attack, he had a really solid army composition and just attacked his opponent at the right time. Against Solar, he went for a 2-base, or actually, I believe against one of the Terran players from SK Telecom, the Journey. You know, went for a very strong 2-base timing as well. So this man, he knows how to play safe and he knows how to execute build orders.
Yeah, well, if you look at the build order right now, Deer's going to be the one going for Stargate behind the double gateway opening, while Jangbi is going to go for the Twilight Council. Yeah.
So the metagame has changed so much in PvP that I can't even say that Twilight Council has an advantage over Stargate anymore, because there's so many different potential follow-ups on each side, and the unit compositions and just everything in Heart of the Storm for PvP has changed completely. And I gotta say though, it can be hectic at times, but overall, the late game is a lot more lavish than simply War of the Worlds Colossus.
Oh yeah, and definitely opening up Stargate does help out a little bit more than opening up Twilight Council, as Tempests are really useful in the late game scenario. Now, Deer, he's not opening up with the Phoenix, he's opening with the Oracle first against his opponent.
And unfortunately for Jangbi, unfortunately for Deer, Jangbi is opening with Blink Stalkers, so he's going to have a lot of Stalkers for defense here if he so needs them.
Yeah, well, for now, Deer's going to have more Stalkers than his opponent because he opened with the double Stalkers, and he's following this up with Twilight Council on his own, so he wants to harass a lot with the Oracle first, but he is not going to commit to any Stargate tech. In fact, he's just going to follow up with the Blink Stalkers of his own.
Yeah, interesting that he's going to go ahead and do that, but you don't see this transition too often, Stargate into Twilight Tech. It's generally Stargate into like an expand with Robo, or continued Stargate usage, but very rarely do we see this transition.
Because usually, if you try to go for one unit composition, you try to get the Robo out for the Observer, trying to get the detection inside your opponent's main base. Now, Deer's going to poke in a little bit, but he needs to be careful. He's trying to force the Stalkers out of the main base, but it's not going to work out.
Yeah, the amount of Stalkers there should tell Deer everything he needs to know, though. And because he's getting his own blink, actually grabbing in an expansion behind this as well. And Jangbi, on the other hand, going to go for a Robo tech.
I like this. Deer knows that his opponent went for the three gateway stalker, so he can theoretically defend against what Jangbi has right now, as long as the Nexus goes up in time. So that's why he risked it. He threw down the Nexus. Jangbi is following up with a Nexus of his own, but Deer should be safe back at his main base with the Mothership Core and the warping of few Stalkers. But now with the Stalkers moving out on the map, Oracle goes inside the main base.
And it's going to try to pick up a few workers here. Needs the retreat, though. That Oracle is toast. Nice defense from Jangbi. I love how both of these players are using very, very minimal scouting information and knowing exactly what their opponents are up to as well. I do not like the choice of Deer throwing away the Oracle so easily, though. I think that he should keep that alive and just use it later, or at least monitor his opponent's army with the Revelation ability. Jangbi trying to be aggressive here, but Deer has a very large number of units, and his blink is about to complete as well, so Jangbi probably isn't going to be prepared for the blink being out so early due to the fact that he saw the Oracle. Yeah,
well, he still has a blink to himself, so he could just harass around here and there, and once Deer goes for the forward blink, all he has to do is blink out.
Yeah. Alright, so Deer is going to use a hallucinated Phoenix to scout his opponent a little bit, sees the position of the Stalkers. We'll see if he tries to blink forward on them. Forward blink goes down. Jangbi, unfortunately, losing a few of his Stalkers here. And not the best trade at all for him, but the blink is revealed. And I want to say that Deer now definitely having a bit of an edge over his opponent, Jangbi.
He does have an edge, but both players cannot go for the decisive kill. I like the fact that there is a forward pylon by Deer. Jangbi did scout it, but he cannot move out on the map, given the fact that he doesn't have any map coverage whatsoever.
Oh, and the forward pylon from Jangbi gets scouted by Deer's ult there. Such a common location for proxies, though, that... Yeah, it's going to get scouted eventually.
Such a common location, but also crucial for Jangbi's play, because Jangbi loves to warp in a lot of zealots and tries to go for the run by into the natural, into the main base. And that's what wins in the game when it comes to PvP scenario. But if he doesn't have any forward pylon, he cannot go for the zealot warp in anymore.
The Stalkers moving forward here. Are they going to try to pick off the Immortal? Going after a sentry or two here, blinking back. And a forward blink here, actually getting a little bit aggressive, I feel, from Jangbi, maybe a little bit too over-aggressive, but the Immortal support from the back is helping out a lot, but still pretty good trade for Deer. He is up 73 supply to 60 now.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Jangbi went for the forward blink, even knowing that the Immortal was out of position to deal fire against the Protoss army from Deer.
Alright, so we do have Deer going for the Forge, getting another Oracle, interestingly enough. What do you think about that?
I'm not too sure. The second Oracle has to do a lot more damage than the first one because, you know, he got up to 4 probes, and now Jangbi knows that his opponent is getting up to Stargate. But this off-timing Oracle might just work out as Jangbi, he is so focused on defending against the Blink Stalkers at the natural base. If Deer can sneak in an Oracle into the main base while Jangbi is focused at the natural, this is going to work out perfectly.
Yeah. Deer needs to be really careful here, though, and actually losing a lot of Stalkers there. Other ones in the red. And forward blink from Jangbi. Both players just, you know, blinking back and forth and trying to get a decent trade. Deer doing the best he can to kind of try to stay out of the range of those Immortals there while still doing some damage. No, the Oracle scouted here. And that means it's going to be pretty useless. And with the forward blink, that Oracle should get picked off, actually. And, yep, Oracle goes down. Deer, unfortunately... Probably should stay away from the Stargate units unless it's Tempest.
Oh yeah, definitely. And both players going into lasers.
You're right, man. They're both going into lasers. They're both getting the Robotics Bay.
Now, Jangbi, he hasn't probed up that much behind this. He was trying to squeeze as much units out. In fact, he is down in 6 probes compared to his opponent. And, uh-oh, Deer. Uh-oh. Why are you getting 2 Robo Bay?
Oh, I think this is actually a bit of a mistake here. It's got to be a mistake. You never go double Robotics Bay. You get
unless
double
you're
Robo.
Combat X, you never go for double Robotics Bay. Maybe double Robo, but no double Robo Bay.
All right, so, well, both of them are getting the double Robo, and Deer's going to have the Forge upgrade advantage over his opponent. The +1 about to complete here. And we'll see if Deer realizes this mistake or if he's going to... I don't think he's going to realize it.
Well, other than the fact that he's going for double Robo, he's been playing fantastic throughout the whole game. He has better upgrades than his opponent. He has more workers than his opponent, even after losing the second Oracle while doing nothing. Oh. He's also getting a 3rd base behind this while Jangbi has no clue what Deer is going for.
I guess the advantage for Jangbi is he's going to be able to get a second Colossus out potentially a little bit faster over his opponent. But other than that, actually evening out as far as the game goes, both players taking a third expansion around relatively same time. And I kind of wish that both players, after scouting the Colossus, would just immediately go in the Tempest, especially Deer, who already has the Stargate available to him. Yeah,
well, for now, both players are focusing on Colossus right now because getting a lot of Tempest against a low number of Colossus is not worth it. It's better to focus on the ground army first and slowly transition into Tempest when your opponent does not expect it.
Yeah, the safest way I've actually seen it done is they'll generally open up Twilight Council.
Yeah.
Or even, you can even go Stargate, and you get the Blink Stalkers, you kind of go into that macro mode, and then you start pumping out a lot of Immortals, and you get up to 4 or 6, and then you put down the double Stargate, and go for the Tempest.
Let's just put it this way, usually it's better to not make that much Colossus in this main army. It's better to go for the Charge Lot, Archon, Immortal, Tempest.
Exactly.
That's the best unit composition you can have in a PvP scenario, and possibly some Void Rays mixed in if it becomes like an air battle between the two players.
Yeah, it becomes more complicated when you introduce Storm and the Void Rays into the mix. So it really just, we haven't seen a lot of that compared to just the pure Archon, Immortal, Tempest army composition. No. And I think that potentially in the future we could see something like that.
Jangbi is pushing down right now. He does have more Immortals compared to his opponent, but he also needs to make sure he deals a critical amount of damage, because if you look at the probe count between the two players, Deer has 12 more probes than his opponent, so he needs to take out the Nexus or at least kill up to 12 probes.
Yeah, that expansion's, there's way too much firepower there, and
nice recall.
Yeah, great.
And
I like it.
Also, there's also some Stalkers inside the main base of Deer.
Oh, Deer actually not doing a great job at dealing with those. He did kill off a few earlier, but then when he was forced out of position, that's when Jangbi went in there and killed off that third base. Really smart tactics from Jangbi, I have to say. You know, this is where he really excels as a player.
Yeah, and these harassments that Jangbi does, really nice play. He always makes it work no matter what. The forward pylon early in the game got taken out, and it doesn't matter as he's going to throw away some of the Stalkers inside the main base. So now Jangbi has the economic lead against his opponent, but the supply is similar between the two players, 141 to 141, with Deer still having better upgrades than his opponent.
Yeah. All right. Deer also still has a slight supply lead over his opponent, even after losing that third expansion. We do have Templar Archives on the way for Jangbi, and the +3 attack starting for Deer. He's also getting the charge. Colossus count very even, but Deer has, Jangbi has a nice Immortal lead over his opponent, and Deer trying to do some damage with the Stalkers. They will get picked off here, and is he going to commit to an attack here?
It's going to be suicidal if he does so, because he has less Immortals. He's going to be, slightly clumped in that position if he tries to force his way up into the not the fourth base, the third base of Jangbi.
And when it comes to Colossus, you have to have the proper positioning, otherwise you're going to get you're going to get straight up obliterated.
So looking at the both players right now, Deer did secure his third base once again. Jangbi not probing up as much as possible. He took a nice lead, except he just didn't probe up behind it, and the +2 slightly delayed compared to his opponent, while Deer right now is getting his +3.
Yeah, Deer going to go ahead and get his Templar Archives now to match the Templar Archives from Jangbi. We have 3 additional gateways as well from the Samsung Protoss. And Deer being the first one to get a 4th base in the mix.
I like this.
But Jangbi is going to get his almost immediately after as well. And, good timing. I think that Jangbi could have actually afforded to get his 4th base a bit sooner, maybe a minute or 2 earlier. But at this point, not the biggest deal. It's just focusing on getting the proper army composition and scouting, because neither of these guys are going for the Tempest. But if one of them decided to put down the double Stargate and do a transition, it could be really, really bad for the other ones if left unscouted.
If left unscouted, that's the key point. And also, both players are really drawing out an economy because they've been sitting on 2 bases for such a long time that transitioning into Tempest is a heavy check commitment, so it's not good at this point. It's just better to wait a little bit more to get the Tempest out. And the 4th base gets cancelled because Deer is out of position.
So Deer going to fall a little bit behind, I feel, overall now. Jangbi now is maxed out. Pretty much at this point, or almost maxed out, up to 187 supply. And Deer catching up as well. But it's really going to come down to positioning, I feel. The army compositions are very similar. It's that Immortal, Archon, Charge Lot, Colossus composition.
Yes. Both players going for the Warp Prism drop, but I like the fact that Deer is making a lot of cannons inside the main base and also some at the third base, knowing that he cannot cover every single location at once, especially since he's going to be maxed out pretty soon.
Yep, Jangbi maxing out with some charge lots in the main base of Deer. The cannons are going to be able to do a good job at the same time. We have a Warp Prism drop in the main base of Jangbi. Jangbi now also being assaulted at his fourth base. Who's going to end up dealing more economic damage here? That's the real question.
Let's go down to the left bottom side where the battle is happening.
Uh-oh, this is going to be the big battle. Potentially could decide this game here. Both players have okay positioning, but I think Jangbi is able to press forward better over his opponent. He has a better immortal count here, and the Colossus for Deer are simply getting shred apart. And even with reinforcements, I don't think that Deer has enough units to defend against this, but is he going to be able to do it?
He needs to charge us next to the Colossus right now. The Colossus count is same, but those cells are ripping apart on the Colossus, and that's going to be it, with Jangbi taking a lead against his opponent.
Yeah, now 90, even though Jangbi is behind in supply, actually, this game may not be over yet.
We do have a cell warping inside the main base, which is doing a nice amount of damage, and the Nexus Cannon actually defends the left bottom base. This is really curious. This is really
Particular.
interesting, yeah. I'm just at a loss of words for a little bit, but he does take out the third base from his opponent.
So Deer, he actually ends this with a supply lead. The Templar Archives down to 15 health, but will remain alive. So that's going to allow Jangbi to reinforce more Archons if he needs to. Crucial at this point in the game.
And now it's really hard for Deer to win this game because now he does have better upgrades than his opponent, don't get me wrong. But Deer, he cannot make more Colossus behind this because he's only down 2 mining bases. Well, exactly 1 mining base because the main has been dried out.
Yeah, Jangbi doing a lot of economic damage throughout the game, just constantly forcing cancels and killing off bases here. And Jangbi moving forward here, he has the superior Archon count. Probes coming off the mineral line, nice time warp.
Oh, but that was much better micro from Deer as he was target firing on the Colossus instead of going for the Archons.
Wow, excellent job with the control here from Deer, trying to make the best of the position he's in right now, but he is really starting to fall down in supply. Both players really low on supplies, and Deer actually ends up winning the engagement here near that, near the natural. Holy crap, man, this is a close game.
Remember, Deer had +1 armor, which Jangbi did not have, and those 2 Colossus were really low in HP. Jangbi should have gone for the Colossus first instead of trying to attack the Archons with his own Colossus. That was a big mistake by Jangbi, and that actually cost him the engagement in the middle of the map. But Deer, yes, he is still down to 1 mining base, but he's also doing a nice job killing a lot of probes inside the third base, trying to make sure that Jangbi is in the most uncomfortable position as much as possible.
Yeah, Jangbi should not really worry about the space too much. And okay, it looks like Deer wants to warp in a few units here. They're going to go ahead and lift off after killing off the cannon and just be annoying.
Yeah, well, that's going to be it for the harassment as the Warp Prism just sits over there. Deer's going to try to retake a third base once again with the DTs coming out, knowing that both players are so focused on getting the Colossus out, and also no cannons whatsoever at the third base.
Look at this, a Dark Shrine on the way for Deer. This may be the winning move potentially from Deer if he can utilize this properly, because they're getting down to the nitty-gritty. The supplies are low, the amount of bases each player has, they're running low on resources.
Like I said, he's not making any Observer right now because he's so focused on getting the DPS units out, getting the Colossus out. The cannon at the third base, like I said before, has been taken out, which means that there's not going to be any detection out for Jangbi inside the main base and at the third base on the right side.
So some more harassment from Deer. Not going to really accomplish too much besides keeping Jangbi preoccupied. Oh, the Stalkers, though, they have Blink. They can blink forward and pick that off. Not even needed. One cell.
Well, the problem is I don't see any Observers. I don't see any cannon inside the main base. I don't see any cannon at the third base.
No Observers for Jangbi. Deer simply has 1 here.
And the Dark Shrine is going to finish pretty soon.
Okay, so we're going to have to find out how much damage the DTs actually do. Deer has 2 options. He can use them in his main army for the single engagement and just outright win it. Or he can try to cripple his opponent's economy and then finish him off with his army.
Okay, now just right now, we saw Jangbi making an Observer. I don't know where that Observer is going to go. It's really crucial for Jangbi to position the Observer, which is moving out in the middle of the map. Uh-oh.
Well, it's going to eventually be able to get over to one of these expansions here. 1 single Dark Templar can't kill off a Nexus on its own without some time.
Yeah, but it's better for him to go for the probes because right now it's better for him to cripple the economy of Jangbi, and there's no cannons, no observer whatsoever at the third base.
Oh, this DT is going to do a ridiculous amount of damage here. The probe's being pulled off the mineral line. This is going to put Jangbi, I feel, into almost like a panic mode here. He's sending some units back to defend that expansion. The observer as well going to head over there. And this may prompt more observers to be built from Jangbi as well.
This means that it's going to be less Colossus from Jangbi, as Deer can just macro up behind us and get tons of Colossus out to overpower his opponents.
Yep. Oh, and at the same time, Deer attacking this 4th expansion. He can just pick that off and then quickly escape afterwards.
Yeah, really smart play by Deer, putting his opponent's army out of position. The panic mode really worked out well.
Colossus getting a few good shots on the units from Deer here, and actually the positioning for Deer is terrible now. The charge lots running through here, and Jangbi is up 147 supply to the 91 of our STX Protoss players. Stalkers blinking forward, going to pick off 2 additional Colossus, and I think this is going to be the attack that Jangbi uses to end the game.
I don't know why the Mothership 4 was never with the main army while Deer was trying to take out the forward base, because what you're supposed to do is take out the forward base and recall before you get into such a position where all of your Colossus are caught out of position and gets killed by your opponent.
So Jangbi not committing to an attack yet, but he's got a ridiculous amount of units here. He can go for the attack, I think, whenever he wants to.
He can go for the attack before his opponent gets too many Colossus out, and he's going to win the battle. Look at the army supply from Jangbi right now. He has 6 Colossus, he has 4 Archons, 22 Zealots to back this up, and his opponent Deer, yes, he does have better upgrades, but he has less army. Only 108 supply compared to 151 of Jangbi.
Alright, so it looks like Jangbi's going to go ahead and attack this 4th base. There's nothing Deer can do about this. He has to give up the expansion, but things are just looking pretty brutal for him. Jangbi, he is getting another expansion of his own being rebuilt for like, what, the 3rd time or something here?
Yeah. I'm a little bit disappointed that Jangbi is not making any decisive move throughout the whole game. Yes, he's playing solid, and this kept him in the game for such a long time. But the problem is he had such a nice lead, and now it's gone, with both players getting up to 5, 6 Colossus of their own.
And the charge lot advantage is still very much in Jangbi's favor here. If he can go for a double-pronged attack, a pincer move, something like that to surround his opponent, the game's going to be over, like, period.
Yeah, so it's really crucial for both players to engage well. That's going to be the key point between these 2 players in this PvP matchup.
Yeah, that's what late game PvP comes down to. You have your army compositions, and if they're the same, then it's 100% positioning.
Yeah, well, Jangbi doing a nice job killing extra probes over here, but Deer is only focused on squeezing out as many units as possible.
Yep, alright, so Jangbi has got the high ground. He's got the supply advantage. But will he be able to defend against this attack here? It looks like he should be able to easily defend.
Yeah.
I think Deer realizes that, and he just wants to get good positioning on the low ground. Nice job by Jangbi doing some economic damage here, picking off a few of the workers, and we have 2 Zealots.
But that prompts an attack from Deer.
All right. Ooh.
Both players just trying to taste the water right now and trying to force their opponent out of the comfortable position. Nice feedback on the Mothership Core.
Oh, an excellent job using that time warp. A great location for it. It's World of the Worlds now. The Colossus versus Colossus. You're going from high ground to low ground. And in that choke, we have the Zealots fighting along with the Archons here. Jangbi has a superior amount of Colossus, but the problem is his entire ground army has been decimated, and now we have an attack from the top of the Colossus, the Archons and Zealots from the side. Jangbi defeats Deer, and the GG is called.